Okay, now this is actually a new thing for me. So, okay, all right. I'll close that for right now, and then I'll figure it out later. But anyhow, I'm live now, and as you guys can see, this is what I'd like to do. Um, I showed this in the other YouTube video, a 15-minute YouTube video. This is what I showed over here. What you do with it. Now I have a tripod. Now you guys can actually see what I'm doing with this machine, particularly, and exactly the where you can see where I'm actually putting the thread in that. So the thread goes in here, goes over there, goes through there into the back, just like that. You want to do that with it. But yeah, other than that, you still want to. These are needle, or not needle, they're ballpoint needles. And every needle has a point on it. That's what these. That's what you need for stretch fabrics and stuff, like this stretch fabric like that. This is pretty much scrap stretch fabric that I have from the inflatable stretch fabric costume I have, because as you can see, it does stretch a little bit. But you want to make sure you do it in a specific way, so then you can actually put it in your sewing machine and do all that you need to do with that particular thing. Now, material like this particularly does not require that because it's stiff. It's all stiff material. So that kind of stiff material won't require that. So that's all a-okay with that. Then this right here particularly, you would just use the regular universal needles with these, with the fabric that's not stretch. Only with stretch fabric you would have to use ballpoint needles to be able to get through the material and stuff like that. In other words, you'll just end up eating the material than anything else. Hello. And I'm actually speaking about what different materials are with this. Um, yeah, well, I have a couple other, or yeah, you've been the second one, the second viewer for that. And I'm just explaining uh, materials and stuff like that. That's what I'm explaining. No, I do not have that. I just actually have a disability, of course, but not cancer. No, that's just part of well, since I was born, I had a disability, so that's just what it's messes around my speech and stuff like that. So that's why it kind of takes me a while to think. So that's why I actually have a hard time finding different friends sometimes. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Just it depends. It depends on the day, and it depends on how I'm feeling that day too. So some days I just end up just being very quiet. Most of the time I'm super quiet of a person. So, but I'm explaining this right here particularly of the machine that I have here, which I've been using this sewing machine for a while, for like 3 years now. So, and it has been over here for the past 27 years. This particular machine, sewing machine, particularly. The name of it is a Singer 401A. That's what that is. That's the actual name brand of it. It even says it on the machine itself. Early 1950s type machine. Oh, yeah, thank you very much for that. It's actually one of the best ones out there compared to the ones today that you would buy at the store. This one right here, particularly, you can get for like 500 or something like that. Everything else that includes all that. Still, even nowadays, you can still get it for 500. like the industrial sewing machines because it's built like the industrial ones. So it's the same type of setup and stuff like that on the inside of it. All metal gearbox in there. Very heavy duty when it comes to different other fabrics, and a lot more forgiving compared to the other sewing machines and the nowadays, like the ones that have all these plastic gears and stuff. This one has no plastic gears in there, which is a big difference. It'll last longer, for one, actually, and for two, definitely it can be reserviced over and over again. So even though parts are really super hard to find for it, that's for a reason, because it's very old, and 1950s sewing machines aren't really made anymore. So that's why it's hard to find parts. Oh, okay. So yeah, very cool with that. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I just used it for stretch fabric for different for projects and stuff like that. But I used it for that, for making an inflatable suit. Actually, I made that with it. So this is just like other scrap fabrics that I've made with it so far, and it does that and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it can do a bunch more of these different stitches and all that kind of stuff. It does a ton of different things, and of which I can actually discover more of what else I can do of the more decorative stitching, of what else I can do with that. Definitely create a good business out of that for sure. Eventually, one day I'll create some sort of business with this. But as for right now, it will remain just sitting here for right now to until I do that for ready for a project and all that kind of stuff. So I'll just be doing many more projects to come with it. And then these particularly, I got these off of Amazon. Really sharp tailoring scissors for this right here, particularly for cutting different fabrics, like the stretch fabric that I have over here. It's really hard to cut this type of fabric with anything else other than really sharp scissors. Because if you don't have sharp scissors, it won't cut through. And these ones particularly cut right through it. And as you can see, it's very hard to cut through it without that. And it would just go like that with it. Even these have a troublesome time too as well. So it just depends on what you want to use these ones particularly for. Because that's because I used it for cardboard, and we use it for cardboard, cutting cardboard. Not really the best thing to use for really sharp scissors like these ones. So, my tip of advice: don't ever cut cardboard with these. It's not designed for that purpose. Only designed for fabrics. So only cut your fabrics with that. Definitely, you'll dull out the blades much quicker for cutting cardboard and stuff like that. The really thick cardboard boxes and stuff like that. That's what I did today with it. To test out to see how sharp they were, but no, that's actually not something to test it out on because it just stalls out the blade. Oh, okay, yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, these are like these are like an $18 pair of pretty sharp scissors, so not bad for 18 bucks. And they did actually perform. They do perform quite well. Usually, they used to actually, particularly, but as you see in there, it doesn't really perform all that well as much as they used to be. But I can always just go like that with it and then cut it that way. And then they can still cut right through that. So yeah, I just have to fidget around with materials now and do that way. So it can still cut through stuff when I need it to do its job. Then it'll do that. So that is particularly well. You can always sharpen them back up again with a grinding stone, which the grinding stone will actually sharpen this particularly to back to its normal sharpness of what you would want it to be for your materials, depending what you're working with. If you're working with a lot of leather stuff, then yeah, that's something with that can be kept in mind with that. Just gotta sharpen it more often. the scissors particularly. The machine using one of these actually can definitely enhance when it comes to making different clothing and stuff. In which I can, what I did with this so far, just about everything, every costume that I've made on my channel here so far is what I did with this machine. So, and that's what I've done over there so far. Many other things I've done, actually. So this is usually what I usually do in my live streams. Is actually show something like this, and then I usually go in there with that. So, but and of course, I'm not just going to show it just to show it, and I'm just going to actually work with it and just try to find a project to work with it on. It's actually what I'm going to do with that to show what it looks like when you're working on a project and why it's and how much actual time it takes to do it and to stuff like that. So it'll pretty much it takes definitely some focus to be able to focus on something like this and to put on your projects or put in your projects and stuff like that, insert them into it particularly. More like I'm going to do a test piece or a test run with that to show an example of, well, this would be a part of that test run of the last time, as you see right there a little bit. But then I'll actually do it again to test run it again on this one to be sure that it's where I need it to be. So without further ado, I'm just going to do that. Plug it in first though, before even doing that. Always gotta have a plug-in for it. Always a nearby plug to plug it in. In other words, you can't really do any projects with that. And I have to scooch a lot closer to it. So then I can actually, the foot pedal is like right down, right below and right off the camera here kind of thing. It's like right below there. I can show you guys that it's right here, right where that's where the knee pedal is. So then you do that with it, and then you just sew on with whatever else that you want to sew, and you just begin to do that. And this only has a 1,200 RPM. Mainly, that's the ones that they do today, and the ones today are do the same amount of RPM. So it's pretty average for ones that are like that. Not bad for an old machine though. And this right here particularly, and this is how it's supposed to sound and stuff like that. You don't want to hear any clicking or anything else that's other than that sound, particularly when it's running. And if you hear any sort of clicking with the bobbin on the inside of the case, then you always have to open up the case. Then you figure out what's wrong with that, and then you unjam it that way to do it that way. I'm just making sure there's no new ones, but yeah, this is what you're supposed to do with that. And this is exactly, and then you just go up and use that with it. You just gotta do it manually with that. If it's on your material or if it's down on the material, then you have to push it up with your, just crank it upward with your hand. And that's pretty much very simple. Not actually a like hard machine to really master. You also gotta make sure that this is always tight, the presser foot, because it likes to loosen itself up over time. So of doing that. And of course, it did actually do its job, and it did actually do that. So it's exactly where I want it to be. Not too much and not too little, but as you can see at first, it does that. So that's normal for it to do that at first because it's trying to catch it, and then once it catches it, then it does that with it, does it nice and smooth. So That's the differences between what it does there with that. So, and then your finished result should look always like a professional and stuff like that, that's how you get these professional finished results. And this is what it used to do before with these universal needles and that. That was with the universal needles, and it just didn't really do so well with that. It just broke the thread and everything else with that. So yeah, definitely you don't want to use universal needles with that. And to take that from somebody who's had experience with that, and who had lots of experience with that. That was a whole different yard game with that, or a whole different ball game, should I say, with that particular thing. So, without further ado, I'm just going to, instead of like showing more about that, I can teach more about the machine, how this works, so, and how to maintain it. So the other part is actually beneath it, and which I can actually show you the other part beneath. Well, actually, without doing that, don't do that what I just did. Don't be trying to grab this piece, because this piece actually goes out. It's supposed to come out, actually, because it actually shows you how you thread your machine properly, stuff like that. So that's always a really good thing about these older machines. They'll show you that right in the very beginning. What they won't show you is how to build the motor again, and how to take that apart and put that back together. That's what they do not show you. But they'll show you everything else about it. But not, that's one of the things they won't show you. They won't show you how to maintain your motor. Which, of course, that's for a reason, because they usually, or they do show you that. It's just that it's up to you to know exactly how to measure it with this and that and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like on the inside of it. That's the working parts. And then you actually oil this part. That part gets actually not really oiled. It gets greased with sewing machine grease. And then that gets sewing machine grease with that too. And it's special sewing machine grease, which is but you can use the nowadays stuff for that. Yes, yes, you use special oil. Special sewing machine oil for this. Yes, which that's what you use for these particular machines. Yes, and because it's like if you use any other oil, then that would actually destroy the machine, and it would actually make the machine not run that well. So you want to make sure you have the right oil. That's also what matters, and make sure you put your part on the right way, of course. With that too. So, and then you put this part right back on, and screw it right back on. And then after you're done oiling down there, then you can oil this area right here a little bit, and then you just set it right back down gently. And then that's how you oil it for the inside, the underside, and then the top side. You have to take off the top thing for it. You need a flathead screwdriver first of all, and then you just feel for that, and then you take the screw out, and then after that, of course, you'd have to find your special oil, which is somewhere in this other area, but it's actually in the lower area, lower half. There we go. Singer sewing machine oil, the oil that came with it as well. So, or sewing machine oil nowadays is what they call that one. Universal sewing machine oil. Pretty much is very universal nowadays. So, and then you just take out this part, and this last other screw over here. There's two screws on the top. And just remember where they actually go. And then you're all good with that. Take that off. Then you come down here, and then there's this part right here. That's where the worm gear is. And I can definitely take this off of here and show you guys what I mean by this particular thing. And then that's where you'd want to oil it. This is where you'd grease it, like right in this cavity area. So, and then this is where you would want to grease it as well a little bit in that area, these areas, and also in this area. In the manual, they'll show you how you grease it, how you do all this. So, you also want to grease that part right here, that part too. So, yep. Anyway, those are the parts that you would want to use or want to grease as well, particularly. And then, well, sewing machine oil would actually be used for just that part right over here that goes up and down when the machine's running. So, and then you just oil that a little bit once in a while. When speaking of, I can actually put some on there right now, actually. And then put you guys right back over here so you guys can see how I do that with 2 hands, because I have to do that with 2 hands, not just 1 hand. This particular job is a 2-handed thing. And then you add your oil right on the top of it. There. And then you kind of like, you move it up and down just like as I'm doing it. And then that just puts the oil where you need it to be. And then you just close it up. Of course, always close it. Always close your cap on your sewing machine oil, because you don't want it spilling all over the place. So the next time you need it, it's actually available. And then here's the grease that comes with it usually. And then that's the grease, sewing machine grease. But they still have it today, exactly the same. So it's not exactly it's not entirely the same thing, but they're pretty much similar to each other as pretty much of that. So they're pretty much just the same, should I say. They're universal these days when it comes to that. Pretty standard. There. And then you put this part right back on once you're done doing all that kind of stuff, because I've already done it once. I've already serviced it like that. Then you put your screw right back in here. Yep, there's the other one. The other one is over there. I forgot that was actually still in there. I thought I dropped it for a second. Sometimes that does happen, so you gotta make sure you don't drop your screws anywhere. Then you put these right back into their slots, and they go right back in there. And then you tighten it out down there, kind of thing, and then it's ready to go again. So that's something you luckily don't have to do very often. That's something you do once in a while for it. So for these particular machines. So, but other than that, I'm just going to do more with it, though. I'm still going to have yet to do a bunch more. So I'll figure this out as I'm in this stream here, kind of thing, and figure out what else I do have some other projects that I got to work on it with it, so might as well show that, how I'm working on that over here too. What else I'm working on. And with that being said, I'm just going to grab these projects, which are actually right behind me with that. And you can always skip a little bit from that, but yeah. That's already done. There we go. No, that's not a project that I was working on. but I can definitely show what I've made so far. Once again, for the projects that I've done. Since I educated you all about this a little bit, well, I can also show the projects that I've made, or one project that I've made with it. You can also do with the same thing with. This is basically my own design inflatable suit that I wanted to make. Super duper lightweight, very easy to get on, and easy to inflate and deflate for particularly that. And I made some domes for it as well. This particular costume I made with that. And of course there's a blower system that you can put in here, which is always it's in the back over here too. That's for the 2 blowers that go in there, the air conditioning type clothing blowers that go in here in those particular areas. But yeah, other than that, this is what I made with it so far. Actually, not really so far. I've made other projects with it. This is just one of the projects that I made definitely so far with that. And there's actually there's a zipper foot over here, which is actually mainly there. This is a zipper foot that you use for this part of your inflatable suit, or coat, or anything like that, or just regular clothing. So yep, and I'll definitely be seeing you guys in my next one. But don't forget to definitely, if you haven't really subscribed here in any way, then you want to, and this actually helped you out with this video, with this kind of thing, and you can always come back to this video to help you out for how to oil your particular sewing machine if you needed to oil it, and also the tensioning and stuff like that. This is for your tension right here, particularly this knob is. So I'll be seeing you guys in my next one.